Expanding on my last video, I wanted to try out a few different types of spray foam. See if there's one in particular that worked really well, or if we could save some money by buying cheaper stuff. So I got some of the stuff that's meant for windows instead of the 3-inch gap filler stuff that I used in my previous video. These armatures are much nicer to use than most other materials. It's interesting how different all of the spray foams act. Coming out of the can, the way they spray, the way they grow, their textures. The nice things about using these cheaper and less expansive ones is you didn't have an unexpected giant poof tree. A bad thing is it sticks all over your camera. But yeah, look at that. You can see through the foliage and get some idea of the underlying branch structure. Definitely a glove job. In the last video, I found that the Loctite super expanding foam had a really nice visual texture if you just painted it. But honestly, the texture on the outside doesn't really matter if you plan on flocking. What matters is the way it takes up space or volume. One of the things that was unexpected but nice about this is since each different spray foam acts in a different way and lays on the arm in a different way, they help to replicate different species of tree. One thing I will say for Loctite, either in this window format or in the larger gap filling format, is much better at being adhesive, so it sticks to the armature much easier. There's much less fussing around with things, which keeps your hands clean or keeps your workspace cleaner. All rock solid. Also helps to do this work on a silicone base mat. It'll peel right off. You can get a sense of the structure of these guys. Much more chaotic bubbles out of the cheaper brands. Much more fine and regular bubbles in the Loctite. That being said, we're not trying to insulate a house. We're just trying to make trees. I don't think there's any real significant difference there. I absolutely love this method for making an individual tree. Disregarding the cure time of the gap filler, which I believe was something like a couple of hours before you could add paint to it. So I would assume it's safe to add glue to it at that point as well. Ignoring that, it's probably like 10 minutes to make these. 10 minutes of actual working time. And I think they look just lovely. Now here's the meat of the video. I wanted to see if I could recreate some of the terrain types in a game like Warhammer that aren't just the standard tree. I wanted to try and make one of the larger corner ruins by just putting lots of trees next to each other while the foam is still curing, which allows them to intermesh and stick and become one cohesive whole instead of a bunch of individual trees. All of the trees pushed together make an effective wall, which you can look at through the bottom if you want to build it that way, but you could also put rocks and bushes in the bottom part of the foliage if you wanted to completely block line of sight. The amount of foam I was working with here, plus the cheap foam being melty, plus the fact I was using a greasy plastic. The things I'm using for armatures here are just cheap decorative sticks that are made out of plastic that you're supposed to put in a vase to look at. The type of plastic they're made out of is not conducive to this work, which is why everything's flopping over. But even with that, and even using the cheaper foam, which was more prone to not holding its shape, I think it's immaterial in the end, once you get that flocking on there. This does use quite a lot of flocking. That being said, it uses a lot less flocking than a normal tree would, like a normal armature with hobby tack and then coarse flocking, because the vast majority of space is being taken up by that foam, so you're just putting a top coat on it. To me, this looks just like an actual copse of trees. Copse? Cops? I don't know. All right, and on to the glamour shots. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.